this politician is lying. And in this case, the Mail on Sunday is saying that Angela Rayner is lying.
These are for her to use as a pawn to implement this government's deeply unpopular socialist agenda.
Did Angela Rayner just torpedo Labour's local election hopes? In a shocking display of incompetence, the Deputy Labour leader stumbled through a parliamentary session, leaving her party's credibility in tatters. As Conservative MPs circled like sharks, Rayner's slurred speech and apparent lies unravelled before our eyes. But what exactly did she say? And why is it causing such an uproar? The answer might just change the course of British politics.
In crisis, the former minister should be apologising for his government's record on housing.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The House of Commons was a powder keg waiting to explode. All eyes were fixed on Angela Rayner, the Deputy Labour leader, as she took her place at the dispatch box. The tension in the air was palpable, with both Labour and Conservative MPs leaning forward in anticipation. Little did they know they were about to witness a parliamentary performance that would send shockwaves through British politics. As Rayner began her address, something seemed off. Her usual fiery demeanour was replaced by an unsettling sluggishness. The first few sentences came out hesitantly, each word seemingly a struggle. "Mr. Speaker," she began, her voice noticeably slurred. "The people of this country deserve better than this government's incompetence." The chamber, usually a cacophony of jeers and cheers, fell into an eerie silence. MPs exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of concern and bewilderment. As Rayner continued, her speech became increasingly incoherent. "We need to address the thing about the cost of living," she stammered, her hands gripping the dispatch box for support. The Conservative benches, initially stunned, began to stir. Whispers turned to murmurs, and soon enough, the heckling began. "Is she drunk?" one Tory MP shouted, causing a ripple of nervous laughter. Rayner, visibly flustered, attempted to regain her composure, but it was clear she was fighting a losing battle. Labour MPs watched in horror as their deputy leader floundered. Some tried to offer supportive nods, while others stared at their shoes, unable to witness the unfolding disaster. The Speaker of the House, struggling to maintain order, repeatedly called for calm as the situation spiralled out of control. In a particularly cringe-worthy moment, Rayner attempted to criticise the government's economic policy. "The Chancellor's budget is like a bad joke," she slurred, pausing for what seemed an eternity before adding, "And believe me, I know bad jokes when I hear them." The irony was lost on no one, as her own performance had become the punchline of the day.
I think that at the moment, cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to make.
As Rayner stumbled through her final points, the damage was already done. Her slurred speech and erratic behaviour had not only undermined her message, but raised serious questions about her competence and credibility. The once fierce deputy leader of the opposition had been reduced to a stammering figure of ridicule. The immediate aftermath was chaos. Labour MPs hurriedly gathered around Rayner as she left the chamber, shielding her from the press gallery's prying eyes. Meanwhile, Conservative MPs could barely contain their glee, with some already drafting tweets and press statements to capitalise on the moment. As the dust settled on Rayner's disastrous performance, a storm was brewing in the Conservative ranks. Tory MPs, emboldened by her stumble, were sharpening their knives, ready to pounce on what they saw as a golden opportunity to discredit the Deputy Labour leader.
In her own tweets, the proof: Angela Rayner has been lying.
The first to strike was James Cleverly, the Education Secretary, who rose to his feet with a glint in his eye. "Mr. Speaker," he began, his voice dripping with mock concern. "I couldn't help but notice the Right Honourable Lady's, shall we say, uncharacteristic delivery. But it's the content of her speech that truly troubles me." cleverly then launched into a scathing critique of Rayner's claims about local election policies, pointing out glaring inconsistencies in her statements. As Rayner squirmed in her seat, other Conservative MPs joined the fray. Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons, zeroed in on Rayner's assertion that Labour-run councils had lower council tax rates. Perhaps the deputy leader would care to explain why the data from the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities shows the exact opposite. Mordaunt challenged, brandishing a stack of papers.
Those housing targets are either impossible to achieve or they're unrealistic, or both.
Unrealistic?
The chamber erupted into a cacophony of jeers and shouts as Rayner attempted to defend herself. Her responses, however, only seemed to dig her deeper into a hole of contradictions. She fumbled through statistics, mixed up dates, and at one point appeared to contradict her own party's manifesto. But the coup de grace came from an unexpected quarter. Sir Robert Goodwill, the Conservative MP for Scarborough and Whitby, rose to his feet, clutching what appeared to be a local newspaper. "Mr. Speaker," he began, his voice steady, "I have here a report from the Scarborough News dated just last week, which directly contradicts the Deputy Leader's claims about Labour's local housing initiatives."
Where we worked with local people and delivered devolution from the ground up rather than this top-down approach.
My what? As Goodwill read out the damning article, the colour drained from Rayner's face. The report detailed how a Labour-run council had actually voted against an affordable housing scheme, despite Rayner's earlier claims of Labour's commitment to such projects. The revelation sent shockwaves through the chamber.
Dishonest? Have they been, they like to... Remember, we used to be a bit more polite about politicians. Now...
Labour MPs shifted uncomfortably in their seats while their Conservative counterparts could barely contain their glee. Rayner, caught in a web of her own making, struggled to form a coherent response. As the session drew to a close, it was clear that the damage had been done. Rayner's credibility lay in tatters, and with it, Labour's carefully crafted narrative about their local election policies.
This politician is lying. And in this case, the Mail on Sunday is saying that Angela Rayner is lying.
The Conservative benches buzzed with excitement, sensing that they had just been handed a powerful weapon in the ongoing political battle. As the dust settles on this parliamentary debacle, one can't help but wonder about the lasting impact on Labour's local election prospects. Angela Rayner's performance has undoubtedly left a sour taste in the mouths of many voters. Will they remember her stumbling words and questionable claims when they head to the polls, or will Labour's policies manage to overshadow this embarrassing incident?
These are for her to use as a pawn to implement this government's deeply unpopular socialist agenda.
This spectacle raises serious questions about the quality of leadership in British politics. When our elected officials can't even maintain composure during parliamentary debates, how can we trust them to handle the complex challenges facing our nation?
It is an instruction. No council should be bullied or blackmailed into local government restructuring.
It's a stark reminder that political accountability is not just a catchphrase, it's a necessity for a functioning democracy. As voters, we must ask ourselves, is this the calibre of representation we deserve?
Cut. And do you know what? Debt's rising and the amount of money that's going into the economy, you've not made it better. Our economy is worse as a...
Or is it time to demand more from those who seek to lead us? The local elections may well serve as a referendum on not just Labour's policies, but on the integrity and competence of its leadership.